She'd given up on love. One desperate swipe later, she matched with a man who seemed too good to be true. He was, because Alex the architect was actually Lucas Moretti, the most dangerous man in the city, a billionaire with secrets darker than she could imagine, and he'd been watching her long before she ever downloaded that app. The wine tasted like regret. Evelyn stared at the half-empty glass on her coffee table, watching the cheap Pinot Grigio catch the glow from her phone screen. Outside her apartment window, the city hummed with Friday night energy. Laughter, car horns, the distant thrum of music from the bar 3 blocks down. Everyone was out there, living, dating, falling in love. Everyone except her. She pulled her knees to her chest, sinking deeper into the worn cushions of her second-hand couch. The fabric smelled faintly of the lavender spray she'd bought to mask the scent of the previous owner's cat. It never quite worked. Nothing ever quite worked. Her phone buzzed. Again. "I swear to God, Evelyn, if you're sitting at home in your pajamas right now, I'm coming over there." The text was from Maya, of course. Maya with her perfect relationship and her perfect fiancé and her perfectly curated Instagram feed that made love look like something achievable. Something real. Evelyn's thumbs hovered over the keyboard. She glanced down at her outfit. Oversized NYU sweatshirt, the one with the coffee stain she'd stopped trying to remove 3 washes ago, and the pajama pants with the dancing avocados. The ones that said, "Let's avo cuddle." Yeah, she was exactly where Maya suspected. "I'm fine, just tired, long week at work." The lie came easily, too easily. She'd been using variations of it for months now, ever since Brad the accountant, Brad with his khakis and his spreadsheets and his promise that this time would be different, had broken up with her via text message. After 2 years, a text message. "Your periods are less creative than your excuses," Maya shot back. "Download the app. 1 profile. Just look. That's all I'm asking." Evelyn's jaw tightened. They'd had this conversation 17 times. She'd counted. Maya believed in love the way some people believed in astrology or essential oils, with an unwavering faith that defied all empirical evidence to the contrary. "Dating apps are where romance goes to die," Evelyn typed. "Dating apps are where my sister met her husband," Maya countered. "Dating apps are where your coworker Rachel met that guy she won't shut up about. Dating apps are where serial killers meet their victims," Evelyn finished aloud, her voice flat in the empty apartment. But her finger was already moving, hovering over the App Store icon. She told herself she wouldn't actually create a profile. She'd just download it. Look around. Maybe swipe through a few people just to see what was out there. Research. Anthropological observation of modern mating rituals. The app opened with an explosion of pink and red hearts, the interface so aggressively cheerful it felt like a personal attack. "Find your perfect match," the banner promised, as if perfect was something that could be packaged and delivered via algorithm. Evelyn's finger hesitated over the Create Profile button. This was ridiculous. She was 28 years old with a master's degree in art history, a decent job at a museum, and a rent-controlled apartment in Manhattan. She didn't need a man. She didn't need anyone. She'd been fine alone before. She could be fine alone again. Her phone buzzed. Maya again. But this time it wasn't a text. It was a photo. Maya and her fiancé Ryan at some rooftop bar, the sunset painting the sky behind them in shades of amber and rose. They were laughing at something, his hand on her waist, her head tilted toward his shoulder. They looked like an advertisement for happiness. Evelyn's chest constricted, not with jealousy, or not entirely with jealousy. With something worse. With loneliness so profound it had its own gravity, pulling at her from the inside. She clicked Create Profile. The questions came rapid-fire: name, age, occupation. What are you looking for? What are your hobbies? Upload photos. She answered on autopilot, her responses deliberately vague, her photos carefully selected from the 3 she had on her phone that didn't include Maya or her reflection in a museum exhibit. In her profile picture, she was smiling at the camera during last year's work retreat, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, her eyes, her best feature, her mother always said, catching the light. "Bio," the app prompted. "Tell potential matches about yourself." Evelyn's fingers hovered over the keyboard. What was there to say? Recently single museum curator who has given up on love but is being peer pressured by her best friend into pretending she hasn't. Excellent at remembering art historical dates, but terrible at remembering why she keeps dating men who can't remember her birthday. In the end, she kept it simple. Art enthusiast, coffee addict, fluent in sarcasm, looking for someone who knows the difference between Monet and Manet. It was basic, generic. The kind of bio that would blend into the sea of other profiles, which was exactly what she wanted. No expectations, no disappointment. She hit save before she could overthink it. The app immediately transitioned to the swiping interface. A man's face filled her screen, Josh, 32, looking earnestly at the camera in what appeared to be a professional headshot. His bio mentioned cryptocurrency and crushing it at the gym. Left swipe. Another face. Tyler, 29. Holding a fish. Why were they always holding fish? Left swipe. Marcus, 34. His bio consisted entirely of a quote from The Office. Not even a good quote. Left swipe. She fell into a rhythm, the mindless swiping, almost meditative. Left, left, left. Each rejection felt like a small act of self-preservation. These men couldn't hurt her if she never gave them the chance. Then his face appeared. Evelyn's thumb froze. The man on her screen wasn't smiling at the camera with forced enthusiasm. He wasn't holding a fish or flexing in a gym mirror. He was captured mid-laugh, his head turned slightly to the side, as if someone had just said something that genuinely amused him. Dark hair, expertly styled but slightly disheveled, strong jawline, eyes that were hard to read from the photo, grey maybe or blue, the kind of eyes that seemed to look through the camera instead of at it. But it wasn't his appearance that made her pause. It was something else. Something in the way he held himself, even in a casual photo. Confidence without arrogance, presence without trying. She scrolled to his bio. Alex, 32, architect. I design buildings, but I'm still figuring out how to build a life. Believer in good coffee, better conversation, and the theory that the best stories happen when you least expect them. Evelyn's pulse quickened. No mention of the gym, no fish, no quotes from sitcoms. Just simplicity, honesty. She read it again, looking for red flags for the catch, for whatever it was that would reveal itself in time as it always did. But there was nothing. Just a man who seemed remarkably normal. Her thumb moved toward the left side of the screen. She should swipe left, she should close the app. She should pour another glass of wine and put on something mindless and pretend this moment never happened. Instead, she swiped right. The screen exploded with animated hearts and a banner that screamed, "It's a match!" Evelyn's breath caught. She stared at the notification, at the small photo of Alex that had migrated to her matches screen, at the timestamp that showed he'd swiped right on her 3 minutes ago. He was online, right now. Before she could talk herself out of it, a message appeared. So? Monet or Manet? Evelyn stared at the words. He'd read her bio. He'd actually read it. Most men didn't make it past the photos. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She could ignore it. Let the match expire in the algorithm's dustbin of missed connections. Go back to her wine and her avocado pajamas and her carefully constructed solitude. Or she could type. Depends, she wrote back, her heart hammering against her ribs for reasons she couldn't explain. Are we talking about artistic merit or auction prices? The 3 dots indicating he was typing appeared immediately. I like the way you think, came his response, but I'm more interested in which one you'd want to see on a Sunday morning. Evelyn smiled despite herself. Monet, water lilies, Musée de l'Orangerie. The rooms are designed to make you forget you're in a museum. When you talk about art, does your voice change? The question caught her off guard. It was specific, personal. The kind of thing someone asked when they actually wanted to know the answer. What do you mean? I mean, do you light up? Do you get that thing in your voice where you forget to be guarded because you're too busy being passionate? Evelyn's hands were trembling now. She set the phone down, pressed her palms against her thighs, tried to slow her breathing. This was just a message, just words on a screen from a stranger who was probably sending the same carefully crafted lines to 12 other women. But it didn't feel like just a message. How would you know, she typed back. You've never heard me talk. Not yet. 2 words. That was all it took. 2 words to make her stomach flip, to make the apartment feel suddenly too small, too quiet, too full of possibility. Confident, aren't you? She added a smiley face emoji, then immediately deleted it. Too eager. She left it at the question. Not confident, hopeful. There's a difference. Evelyn glanced at the clock. It was nearly midnight. She had to work tomorrow, well, today now. She should sleep. She should end this conversation and approach it rationally in the morning after coffee, after she'd had time to think. Tell me something true, she typed instead. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared. Appeared and disappeared. She imagined him on the other end, wherever he was, considering his answer. Deleting and rewriting, the way she always did. Finally, I downloaded this app 3 hours ago. You're the first person I've messaged. The first person I wanted to message. Evelyn's chest tightened. Why? Because your eyes looked sad in your photo, and I wanted to know why someone with eyes like that would need to be on a dating app in the first place. She should have been offended, should have been wary. Instead, she found herself looking at her profile picture, really looking at it. Maya had taken it, had insisted she looked beautiful, had promised it would get matches. But Evelyn could see it now, the smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, the guardedness in her expression so subtle she hadn't noticed it herself. Maybe I'm not sad, she wrote. Maybe that's just my face. Maybe. Or maybe you've been hurt by people who didn't deserve you, and now you're here because your best friend convinced you to give it one more shot. Evelyn's breath stilled. That's oddly specific. Am I wrong? She stared at the message for a long moment. In her apartment, the refrigerator hummed. A siren wailed somewhere in the distance. The city continued its Friday night symphony, oblivious to the small earthquake happening inside her chest. No, she finally typed. You're not wrong. Then let me be right about one more thing. What's that? That you deserve better than the last however many someones who made you think love isn't worth trying for, and that maybe, just maybe, you'd be willing to let me prove it. Evelyn's vision blurred. She blinked, surprised to find her eyes wet. This was insane. She didn't cry over messages from strangers. She didn't cry over dating apps. She didn't cry at all anymore. Not since Brad. Not since she decided that tears were just another thing you wasted on people who didn't care. But these weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of something else, something she didn't have a name for yet. That's a bold claim from someone I've been talking to for 10 minutes, she wrote. Then give me 20, or 30, or however long it takes for you to believe me. Evelyn looked around her apartment, at the dishes in the sink, at the laundry basket overflowing in the corner, at all the evidence of a life lived alone. She thought about Maya's text, about the challenge hidden in her friend's words. One profile. Just look. But she wasn't just looking anymore. Okay, she typed, her finger trembling over the send button. Prove it. The response came immediately. What are you doing tomorrow night? And just like that, the last swipe became the first step. Evelyn Chen, who had given up on love, who had sworn off men and apps and the whole exhausting dance of modern dating, found herself smiling at her phone in her avocado pajamas at 12:30 in the morning. She didn't know it yet, but her life had just changed. The man on the other end of that conversation, the man with the carefully crafted profile and the disarming honesty, set down his phone and leaned back in his chair. His real phone, the one that contained the actual architecture of his life, sat dark and silent on the mahogany desk beside him. Lucas Moretti allowed himself a small smile. She'd taken the bait. But as he looked at her photo again, at those sad eyes and that guarded smile, something unexpected twisted in his chest. Something that felt dangerously close to guilt. He silenced it. This was business, strategy, control. It had to be. Because if it was anything else, if what he felt when he read her messages was anything more than calculated interest, then he was already in more trouble than any rival organization could ever cause him. He stood, walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, 17 blocks away, Evelyn Chen was probably going to bed, her mind full of possibilities and hope, and he was the man who was going to shatter it all. The thought should have satisfied him. Instead, it left a bitter taste that no amount of expensive scotch could wash away. Tomorrow night, he'd texted her. Tomorrow night, everything would begin. Lucas just wasn't sure anymore what he was beginning. Evelyn woke to sunlight streaming through the gaps in her curtains, and a notification that made her stomach flip before she'd even opened her eyes. "Good morning. I hope you slept better than I did." She grabbed her phone from the nightstand, squinting at the screen. The message from Alex had arrived at 7:14 a.m., followed by another at 7:23. That sounded creepy. Let me rephrase. I stayed up thinking about our conversation, about you. "Better?" Evelyn smiled, her fingers already moving across the keyboard. "Marginally less creepy, but I'll allow it." The 3 dots appeared immediately, as if he'd been waiting for her response. "Tell me I didn't imagine last night. Tell me you're real, and not some elaborate AI designed to give hope to jaded architects." "I'm real," she typed back, "though the jury's still out on whether you are." "Fair point." How do we verify each other's existence? Evelyn sat up, pushing her hair out of her face. The apartment was cool, the morning quiet in that particular way that only Saturday mornings could be. She had nowhere to be, nothing scheduled until her evening shift at the museum. For the first time in months, the emptiness of her day didn't feel oppressive. It felt like possibility. "We could meet," she wrote, then immediately deleted it. Too forward, too eager. She tried again. "I guess we'll find out tonight." About tonight? Evelyn's heart sank. Here it comes. The cancellation, the sudden emergency, the reveal that he was actually married with 3 kids and a mortgage in Connecticut. "I want to do this right," his message continued. "No crowded bar where we have to shout over music. No awkward dinner where we're trapped across from each other, with nothing to do but stare if the conversation dies. Something different." "Different how?" "Do you trust me?" The question should have raised every red flag. Instead, Evelyn found herself considering it seriously. Did she trust him? She didn't know him. 45 minutes of messages didn't equal trust. Trust was earned through time and actions, and all the little moments that proved someone's character. But something in his words last night had resonated. Something in the way he'd seen through her profile to the sadness beneath. Not everyone could do that. Not everyone tried. "I trust you enough to meet in a public place," she wrote back. "How's that?" "Perfect, I'll text you the address at 7. Dress comfortable. And Evelyn." "Yes. Bring your sense of adventure. You're going to need it." She stared at the message, a mix of excitement and trepidation swirling in her chest. This was either going to be amazing or a disaster. There was no middle ground. "Mysterious," she typed. "I guess I'll see you at 7. I'll be the one trying not to stare." Evelyn felt warmth spread across her cheeks. She set the phone down, pressing her hands to her face. This was ridiculous. She was blushing. Over a text message, from a man she hadn't even met. Her phone rang, startling her. Maya's face filled the screen, her expression somewhere between smug and ecstatic. "You matched with someone," Maya said the moment Evelyn answered. It wasn't a question. "How did you have that voice? That something happened voice. Spill. Now. All of it." Evelyn fell back against her pillows, cradling the phone between her shoulder and ear. "It's probably nothing, just a match. We messaged for a bit last night." "How long is a bit?" "I don't know. An hour, maybe more?" Maya's squeal could have shattered glass. "Evelyn Chen, you stayed up past midnight on a Friday talking to a man. Do you understand the significance of this? You, the woman who goes to bed at 10:30 like a geriatric golden retriever." "I don't, that's not..." Evelyn sighed. "Okay, fine, yes, I talked to someone. And yes, I'm seeing him tonight." "Tonight? You're meeting him tonight? It's just a first date, Maya. Calm down. There is no such thing as just a first date. First dates are the foundation of everything, the blueprint, the..." "You've been with Ryan too long," Evelyn interrupted. "You're starting to sound like him." "Don't change the subject. What's his name? What does he do? How cute is he on a scale of 1 to marry him immediately?" Evelyn laughed despite herself. "His name is Alex. He's an architect. And I don't know. His photos are... nice. Nice." She says nice like she's describing oatmeal. "Evelyn, show me." "I'm not showing you his profile." "Why not? Are you afraid I'll judge him?" "No. I'm afraid you'll show Ryan, and Ryan will do some kind of background check. And by tonight you'll both have a full dossier on this poor guy, including his kindergarten report card." There was a pause. "That's surprisingly accurate. But it's because we love you." "I know." Evelyn's voice softened. "And I appreciate it. But let me do this my way, okay? Let me have this one thing that's just mine for a little while." Maya was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted. losing its playful edge. "Are you scared?" Evelyn considered the question. "Terrified." "Good. That means you care. And caring means you're not giving up. And not giving up means Brad the accountant didn't win. This isn't about Brad. Everything's about Brad until you meet someone who makes you forget Brad ever existed. That's how it works. That's how you know they're worth it." Evelyn swallowed past the sudden lump in her throat. "What if I'm not ready?" "Nobody's ever ready. Love doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just shows up and demands you pay attention." Maya paused. "Where's he taking you?" "I don't know. He said it would be different. That I should dress comfortably and bring my sense of adventure." "Oh my God, Evelyn. This man is either a serial killer or your soulmate. There's no in between." "That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be true." Maya's voice gentled. "Text me when you get there, and when you leave, and maybe every 30 minutes in between, just so I know you're alive." "You're ridiculous." "I'm cautious. There's a difference. Now go do whatever it is you need to do to prepare for tonight." "And Evelyn?" "Yeah?" "Wear the blue dress, the one with the buttons. It makes your eyes look like they're made of melted chocolate." Evelyn smiled. "I thought you said to dress comfortably." "The blue dress is comfortable. It's also devastating. Trust me on this." After Maya hung up, Evelyn lay in bed for another 10 minutes staring at the ceiling. Her mind was already racing ahead to tonight, to what she should wear, what she should say, how she should act. All the calculations and strategies she'd developed over years of bad dates and worse relationships. But then she remembered Alex's words. "Tell me something true." Maybe that was the answer. Maybe instead of trying to be whoever she thought he wanted her to be, she could just be herself. Scared, hopeful, cautiously optimistic. A woman who'd been hurt but wasn't broken, who'd given up but was trying again anyway. She got out of bed. The day stretched ahead of her. 8 hours until 7 o'clock. 8 hours to talk herself out of it or into it or around it in circles until she ended up right back where she started. Standing at her door, keys in hand, about to step into the unknown. Evelyn showered, dressed in jeans and her favorite sweater, and headed to the museum for her shift. Maybe work would distract her. Maybe she'd lose herself in the quiet galleries and the familiar paintings and forget to be nervous. She should have known better. By 5 o'clock she'd checked her phone 37 times, reorganized the Impressionist exhibit twice, and accidentally told a tourist that Starry Night was painted by Picasso. Her supervisor, Margaret, had given her a look that suggested retirement was looking better with every passing moment. "You're distracted," Margaret observed, appearing beside Evelyn as she stared, unseeing, at a Degas ballerina. "I'm fine." "You just spent 10 minutes staring at that painting without blinking. Either you've discovered a profound new interpretation of Degas' treatment of the female form, or you're thinking about a man." Evelyn's cheeks flushed. "Is it that obvious?" Margaret smiled, her stern features softening. "Only to someone who's been there. First date? How did you— You're wearing lip gloss. You never wear lip gloss." Margaret patted Evelyn's shoulder. "Go home. Get ready. Try not to overthink it." "Is that possible?" "No, but the trying is what counts." Evelyn left the museum at 6, taking the subway back to her apartment with 1 hour to spare. She changed into the blue dress, then changed out of it. Tried jeans and a nice top. Changed again. Ended up back in the blue dress because Maya was right. It was devastating, and more importantly, it made her feel like someone worth devastating for. At 6:58, her phone buzzed. An address appeared on her screen, followed by a message. "I'm already here. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." Evelyn stared at the location. It wasn't a restaurant, wasn't a bar. It was a rooftop in Tribeca. She grabbed her jacket, checked her reflection one more time, and headed out the door. The address led her to an unassuming building tucked between a gallery and a wine shop. Evelyn checked her phone 3 times to make sure she had the right place. The entrance was unmarked except for a small brass buzzer. She pressed it. "Top floor," a voice crackled through the speaker. His voice. Even through the static, it did something to her pulse. The elevator was old, the kind with a metal gate you had to pull shut manually. It creaked as it ascended, each floor marked by a lurch and a groan that suggested the whole apparatus might give up at any moment. When the doors opened, Evelyn stepped out onto a rooftop garden. Strings of Edison bulbs crisscrossed overhead, casting warm pools of light across weathered wooden tables and clusters of potted plants. The city skyline spread out beyond the garden's edge, 1,000 windows glowing like stars brought down to earth. The air smelled of herbs, basil and rosemary, and something else she couldn't name. And there, beside a small table set for two, stood Alex. The photos hadn't lied, but they hadn't told the whole truth either. He was taller than she'd expected, his frame lean but solid beneath a dark Henleyan jeans. His hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd run his hands through it recently. But it was his eyes that caught her, grey, she'd been right about that, and focused on her with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe properly. He smiled, and the city seemed to quiet. Evelyn. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, a recognition, as if he'd known exactly what she'd look like even though he'd only seen her photos. Alex. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. This is unexpected. Is that good or bad unexpected? She looked around the rooftop at the careful arrangement of lights and candles, at the small speaker playing something instrumental and haunting. It's perfect, unexpected. His smile widened, revealing a dimple in his left cheek she hadn't seen in any of his photos. I know a guy who runs an event space. He owed me a favor. I figured if we're going to talk, we might as well do it somewhere we can actually hear each other. Evelyn moved closer, her heels clicking softly on the wooden planks. You went to a lot of trouble for a first date with a stranger. You're not a stranger. He pulled out her chair. We talked for an hour last night. I know you prefer Monet over Manet. I know you work at a museum. I know your voice changes when you talk about art. That's not nothing. She sat, hyper-aware of his proximity, as he settled into the chair across from her. Up close, she could see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the shadow of stubble along his jaw. There was something about him, an intensity beneath the charm, that made her nervous in a way that wasn't entirely unpleasant. So, he said, leaning back slightly, tell me something you've never told anyone on a first date. That's setting the bar pretty high right out of the gate. I don't believe in starting low and working up. Go big or go home, right? Evelyn considered him, this man who'd created a rooftop garden out of nothing, who'd asked her questions no one else bothered to ask. Okay, I hate first dates. Wow, starting strong. You asked for honesty. She reached for the water glass in front of her, needing something to do with her hands. I hate the performance of it. The pretending to be fascinating when really you just want to know if the person across from you is going to hurt you less than the last one did. The humor faded from his expression. And you think I'm going to hurt you? I think everyone has the potential to hurt everyone. It's just a question of whether they choose to or not. That's dark. That's realistic. He studied her for a long moment, his grey eyes unreadable. Then he leaned forward, elbows on the table. Okay, my turn. I don't believe in soulmates. Evelyn blinked. That's not what I expected you to say. What did you expect? I don't know. Something charming, something designed to make me swoon. I'm done with designed. The words came out sharp, then he seemed to catch himself. I think soulmates are a myth we tell ourselves to avoid the actual work of loving someone. Real connection isn't destiny, it's choice. Every day, choosing to show up, choosing to stay, choosing to try. Evelyn felt something shift in her chest. That's so actually more romantic than soulmates. Is it? Yes. Because it means love is something you build instead of something you find, like architecture. His expression changed, something flickering behind his eyes that she couldn't read. You're good at this. At what? At seeing through to the real thing. He paused. It's rare. Before Evelyn could respond, a door opened behind Alex, and a woman in chef's whites appeared carrying 2 plates. The food was simple. Pasta with fresh herbs, crusty bread, a salad that looked like it came from the garden around them. Compliments of Tony, the chef said, setting down the plates. Enjoy. When they were alone again, Alex gestured to the food. I hope you're not vegetarian. I should have asked. I'm not. Evelyn picked up her fork, grateful for the distraction. This looks amazing. It tastes better. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the city humming its evening song around them. Evelyn found herself relaxing incrementally, the tension in her shoulders easing with each moment that passed without awkwardness or disappointment. Tell me about the museum, Alex said, breaking the quiet. What's your favorite piece in the collection? And just like that, she was talking, about the Morisot hanging in the corner of the second floor, about the way light changed the meaning of paintings depending on the time of day, about the tourists who rushed through like they were checking items off a list, and the ones who stood transfixed in front of single pieces for 30 minutes at a time. He listened. Actually listened, his attention never wavering, his questions thoughtful and specific. Not the performative listening of someone waiting for their turn to talk, but genuine interest in what she was saying. "You light up," he said suddenly. "What?" "When you talk about art, your whole face changes. It's like watching someone come alive." Evelyn felt heat creep up her neck. "That's what you said last night, about my voice changing." "I wanted to see if I was right." He smiled. "I was. And what about you?" She leaned forward. "Do you light up when you talk about architecture?" Something flickered across his face, too quick to name. "Not the same way. I like the work, the problem-solving aspect. The way you can take an empty space and turn it into something meaningful. But it's not," he trailed off. "It's not love," Evelyn finished. "No, it's not love. Then why do it?" The question hung between them, weighted with something she couldn't identify. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he set down his fork and met her eyes. "Because sometimes you do the thing that makes sense instead of the thing that makes you happy. Because sometimes responsibility wins over passion. Because—" He stopped, shook his head. "Sorry, that got heavy fast." "No." Evelyn reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of his. "No, I get it. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, or a lawyer, something practical. Art history was frivolous, they said, something I'd regret." "Do you? Not even once?" She pulled her hand back. "Even on the days when I'm breaking up fights between tourists in the gift shop, or explaining for the 100th time that we don't have the Mona Lisa. It's worth it. Because you love it." "Because I love it," she confirmed. Alex was quiet for a long moment. "I envy that. Loving what you do. Knowing what you love." He said it simply, but Evelyn heard the weight beneath the words. The admission cost him something. The conversation shifted, flowing from topic to topic with an ease that surprised her. They talked about books and movies and the worst date either of them had ever been on. He made her laugh with a story about a client who wanted a building designed to look like a giant seashell. She made him wince with a description of Brad the accountant's breakup text. "Via text message," Alex repeated, disgust evident in his tone. "After 2 years." In his defense, he did use proper punctuation. That makes it worse somehow. Right? Like if you're going to be a coward, at least commit to the cowardice. Don't half-ass it with semicolons. He laughed, the sound rich and genuine, and Evelyn felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Hope, the kind that hurt, because it felt so much like possibility. The plates were cleared. Dessert appeared, tiramisu that melted on Evelyn's tongue. Coffee materialized hot and perfect. The lights overhead swayed gently in the evening breeze. "Can I ask you something?" Evelyn said, cradling her cup. "Anything." "Why me?" "What do you mean?" "I mean—" She gestured vaguely. "You're clearly successful. You've got connections, you can arrange rooftop gardens for first dates, you're not bad looking." "Not bad looking?" His eyebrows rose. "I'll take it. And yet you're on a dating app, talking to someone you've never met. Why?" The humor faded from his expression. For the first time all evening he looked uncomfortable. "Because the alternative, meeting someone through work or friends or whatever, comes with complications I'm not interested in." "What kind of complications?" "The kind where people have expectations before you've even said hello, where they know your name and your reputation and they've already decided who you are before you've had a chance to show them." He paused. "With you, I get to just be me. No context, no history. Just this." Evelyn understood that more than he knew. "Just this," she repeated softly. His eyes found hers across the table. In the candlelight, they looked almost silver. "Is it enough?" The question should have been too much too soon. Instead, it felt exactly right. "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but I'd like to find out." He smiled, and Evelyn wondered if her heart was supposed to feel this full after just one date. If it was normal to feel like she'd known him longer than a few hours, if everyone felt this way, or if she was special, cursed. Blessed. Doomed. What are you thinking? He asked. She almost told him the truth. Almost said, I'm thinking I'm in trouble because I already like you too much. Instead, she said, I'm thinking this is the best first date I've ever been on. Just the best first date? Not the best date overall? Ask me again after the second one. His smile turned devastating. Is that a yes? That's a maybe, pending further review. I can work with maybe. They stayed on that rooftop until the coffee grew cold and the candles burned low, talking, laughing, existing in that suspended space between strangers and something more, where everything felt possible and nothing was certain. When Evelyn finally checked her phone, she was shocked to find it was nearly midnight. I should go, she said reluctantly. Early shift tomorrow. I'll walk you down. In the elevator, shoulder to shoulder in the small space, Evelyn was acutely aware of his presence, the heat of him, the scent of his cologne, something subtle and expensive. The way he watched her from the corner of his eye, as if memorizing her profile. On the street, a car waited. Not a taxi, a black sedan with tinted windows. You don't have to do that, Evelyn protested. I can take the subway. At midnight? Absolutely not. He opened the back door. The driver will take you home, no arguments. This is too much. It's not nearly enough. He held her gaze. Text me when you get home. So, I know you're safe. Evelyn hesitated, then stepped closer. On impulse, she rose on her toes and kissed his cheek. The stubble scratched lightly against her lips. She felt him go still, felt the catch in his breath. Thank you, she whispered. For tonight. For all of it. When she pulled back, his eyes were darker than before, his expression unreadable. Evelyn. Yes? This wasn't just a good first date for me either. I want you to know that. She got into the car before she could do something stupid, like kiss him properly or confess that she was already half in love with the idea of him. As the car pulled away, she looked back through the rear window. He was standing on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, watching her go. Something about the way he stood alone in the circle of streetlight made her chest ache. She texted him before she'd even made it 3 blocks. Thank you for tonight. I'm already looking forward to the next one. His response came immediately. Tomorrow? Evelyn stared at the message, her pulse racing. Tomorrow was too soon. Tomorrow suggested desperation or intensity or both. Tomorrow violated every dating rule she'd ever learned. Tomorrow sounds perfect, she typed back. She didn't see his expression when he read her message. Didn't see the way his smile faded as he looked at his phone, then at the building behind him. Lucas Moretti stood on that sidewalk for 5 minutes after her car disappeared, his real phone heavy in his pocket. The phone that contained messages from his senior associates, surveillance photos, recordings of phone calls that could bury half the city's elite. He'd just had the best evening of his life with a woman who thought his name was Alex. And tomorrow, he'd do it again. Because somewhere between the rooftop and the goodbye, this had stopped being about control. It had stopped being about surveillance or strategy or keeping a potential witness close. It had become about her, and that was the most dangerous thing that could have happened. Evelyn's phone buzzed at 7:43 a.m. Coffee? I know a place. She stared at the message, her hair still wet from the shower, her museum uniform half-buttoned. Tomorrow, he'd said. But tomorrow was today, and today was happening faster than she'd anticipated. It's Sunday, she typed back. Don't architects sleep in? Not when there's a reason to get up. She should have been wary, should have remembered every article she'd ever read about love bombing and red flags and men who moved too fast. Instead, she found herself smiling at her reflection in the mirror. Where and when? An address appeared, followed by, 30 minutes too soon? Evelyn looked at her half-dressed state, at the apartment that desperately needed cleaning, at all the perfectly reasonable excuses she could make to slow this down. See you in 30, she replied. The cafe was tucked into a side street in Soho, the kind of place with no sign and a door you had to know to knock on. Evelyn found it only because Alex was standing outside, 2 cups of coffee already in hand. You're early, she said, slightly breathless from walking too fast. I'm punctual, there's a difference. He handed her a cup. Oat milk latte, right? You mentioned it last night. She had. In passing, during a story about a co-worker. The fact that he'd remembered made something warm unfurl in her chest. You pay attention. Only to things that matter. They walked with no particular destination, sipping coffee and talking about nothing and everything. He asked about her shift at the museum. She asked about his current project. The conversation flowed as easily as it had the night before, maybe easier, the nervousness of a first date replaced by the comfort of recognition. "Where are we going?" Evelyn asked after 20 minutes of meandering through quiet streets. "Does it matter?" She considered that. "No, I guess it doesn't." "Good, because I have no idea." She laughed, and his expression softened in a way that made her heart stumble. They ended up at Washington Square Park, sitting on a bench near the fountain, watching street performers and families with their dogs. The morning sun was gentle, the kind that promised warmth without delivering on it yet. "Tell me about your family," Alex said, stretching his arm across the back of the bench. "That's a second date question." "We're on a second date. We're on a second coffee. There's a difference." "Fair point." He shifted slightly closer. "Then tell me this, do you talk to them? Your family?" Evelyn wrapped both hands around her cup. "Sometimes. Holidays, mostly. They're disappointed in me, I think. In my choices. The art history degree, the museum job that barely pays my rent. They wanted different for me. Different doesn't always mean better. No, but it's hard to convince immigrant parents that your happiness is worth their sacrifices." She glanced at him. "Sorry, that got heavy. Don't apologize for being real." His hand moved from the bench to her shoulder, a gentle weight that grounded her. "What about you? Do you think you made the wrong choice?" "Never." The conviction in her voice surprised even her. "Not once. Even when I'm eating ramen for the 4th night in a row because rent is due, even when I'm cataloging donations in the basement for hours, I'd choose it again. Because you love it. Because it's mine." She met his eyes. "Does that make sense?" "More than you know." Something in his tone made her pause. "What about your family? Are they proud of you?" His expression shuttered so quickly she almost missed it. "My father is dead. My mother. It's complicated. I'm sorry." "Don't be. He wasn't a good man." The words came out flat, devoid of emotion in a way that suggested an abundance of it, carefully contained. "Some people shouldn't be parents. He was one of them." Evelyn's hand found his knee, a gentle pressure. "And your mother?" "Loves me despite knowing what I am. Or maybe because of it. I haven't figured out which is worse." "What you are." He looked at her then, really looked at her, with an intensity that made her breath catch. "A disappointment, a rebellion, a son who chose the family business when he wanted to choose something else. Like what? It doesn't matter. That door closed a long time ago. Does it have to be closed? Yes. No hesitation. No room for argument. Some choices, once you make them, you can't unmake. You just have to live with them." Evelyn wanted to press, to dig deeper into whatever pain lived beneath those words, but something in his expression warned her off. Not yet. Not now. Maybe not ever. "Tell me something happy," she said instead. He blinked, the darkness in his expression clearing slightly. "Happy? Yes. Tell me something that makes you happy. Actually happy, not just content or satisfied. Something that makes you feel like yourself." He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, this, right now, sitting here with you. No expectations, no roles to play, just existing in the moment. He turned to face her fully. "I can't remember the last time I felt like I could just breathe." Evelyn's chest tightened. "You make it sound like you're trapped." "Maybe I am. Or maybe I've just been pretending for so long I forgot what real feels like." He paused. "Until you." "That's a lot of pressure for a second coffee date." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm being too intense." "No." She shifted closer, closing the gap between them. "You're being honest. There's a difference." For a moment they just looked at each other. Evelyn was aware of every point of contact, his hand on her shoulder, her hand on his knee, the minimal space between their bodies. She could see the individual lashes framing his grey eyes, the small scar above his left eyebrow that she hadn't noticed before. "Can I ask you something?" His voice was lower now, intimate. "And you have to promise to answer honestly." "Okay. Are you scared of this, of how fast this feels?" Evelyn's heart hammered, terrified. Good. So am I. That's good. That means it's real. That means we both know this isn't just attraction or convenience. That means... His phone rang, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen and something cold passed over his features. I'm sorry. I have to take this. It's okay. Take your time. He stood, walking a few feet away, his back to her. Evelyn couldn't hear the conversation, but she could read his body language, the sudden rigidity in his shoulders, the way his free hand clenched into a fist. When he spoke, his voice was different, harder, the voice of someone used to being obeyed. I said Tuesday, not Monday, not today, Tuesday, handle it. He hung up, stood still for another moment, then turned back to her with an expression that tried to be apologetic but didn't quite make it. Work emergency? Something like that. He sat back down, but the ease from before was gone. He was present but absent, his mind clearly elsewhere. I'm sorry. Terrible timing. It happens. Evelyn tried to keep her voice light. Hazards of being successful and important. I'm not... He stopped himself. It's not about being important, it's about responsibility, about people who depend on you to make decisions they can't make themselves. Must be exhausting. You have no idea. They sat in silence for a few minutes, the moment from before impossible to recapture. Evelyn watched a woman throw a tennis ball for her dog, watched tourists take selfies in front of the arch, watched the city continue its Sunday morning rhythm, oblivious to the strange tension that had settled over their bench. I should probably go, Alex said finally. Deal with this before it becomes a bigger problem. Of course. Evelyn stood, trying not to let disappointment show on her face. Thanks for the coffee. Evelyn. He caught her hand, pulling her back. I'll make this up to you. Dinner, a real dinner, tomorrow night. You don't have to. I want to, please. There was something almost desperate in his eyes, something that made her say yes when her better judgment suggested creating some distance. Okay. Tomorrow. He pulled her into a hug, unexpected and tight. She felt the tension in his frame, the way he held her like she might disappear if he loosened his grip. When he pulled back, his hand lingered on her cheek. Be careful going home. It's broad daylight on a Sunday morning. I think I'll survive the subway. I know, but still, be careful. He walked away quickly, his phone already at his ear before he'd made it 10 feet. Evelyn watched him go, a strange unease settling in her stomach. Something wasn't right. She couldn't put her finger on it exactly. Maybe it was the way he'd changed when that call came in, the way he'd looked at her when he said goodbye, as if memorizing her features. Or maybe it was the car that pulled up the moment he reached the street corner, a black sedan with tinted windows that definitely wasn't a taxi. Evelyn shook her head. She was being paranoid. Successful people had drivers. It wasn't that strange. But as she walked home, she couldn't shake the feeling that Alex was hiding something bigger than an overbearing boss or a demanding client. She unlocked her phone, pulling up his profile on the dating app. Alex, 32, architect. The bio was vague, she realized now. No mention of what firm he worked for, what projects he'd completed, what part of the city he lived in, just generalities and philosophy. She opened a new tab, typed Alex Architect New York into the search bar. Nothing. Or rather, lots of Alexis who were architects, but none that matched his photo, his age, his description. She tried narrowing it down, adding details from their conversations. Still nothing. Evelyn told herself it meant nothing. Not everyone had a robust online presence. Some people valued privacy. It didn't mean he was lying, but the doubt once planted was hard to uproot. That night, she texted Maya. Question. Is it weird that I can't find any information about him online? Maya's response came in seconds. Extremely weird. Have you tried Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram? All of them. Nothing. Evelyn, red flag, major red flag. Or he's just private. Or he's married. Or he's in witness protection. Or he's a serial killer. Evelyn, Google is your friend. If Google doesn't know him, you shouldn't either. Evelyn stared at the message, her stomach churning. Maya was right. In the age of digital footprints, absence was as telling as presence. Everyone left traces, social media accounts, professional profiles, mentions in news articles or company directories. Everyone except Alex. She pulled up their message thread, scrolling through their conversations, looking for clues, for inconsistencies, for anything that might explain the growing unease in her gut. "Tell me about your work," she typed. "What projects are you working on right now?" The response took longer than usual. 3 minutes. 5. Evelyn watched the clock, anxiety building with each passing second. Finally, "Mostly corporate spaces, office buildings, nothing exciting. Why?" "Just curious. Thought maybe I could visit one sometime. See your work in action." Another long pause. "They're not very interesting. Just glass and steel and CEOs who want to look important." A second message followed. "But I'd love to show you sometime, when something actually worth seeing is complete." Evelyn set down her phone, her hands trembling slightly. He was deflecting, changing the subject, giving her non-answers wrapped in charm. Maybe Maya was right. Maybe she'd been so desperate for connection, so eager to believe in this fairy tale, that she'd missed the obvious signs. Or maybe she was overthinking everything, letting paranoia ruin something good before it even had a chance to begin. Her phone buzzed again. Not a message. A call. Alex's name on the screen. She answered. "Hello? Did I do something wrong?" His voice was rough, concerned. "Your messages felt off." "No, I'm just tired. Long day." "You're lying." "I'm not." "Evelyn, I can hear it in your voice. Talk to me. What's wrong?" She almost told him. Almost asked directly, "Who are you really?" Instead she said, "This feels fast, maybe too fast. I don't know if I'm ready for this." The silence on his end stretched long enough that she checked her phone to make sure the call hadn't dropped. "You're right," he said finally. "We should slow down, take a step back. I've been pushing too hard, moving too fast. I'm sorry." Relief and disappointment warred in her chest. "So no dinner tomorrow?" "Do you want dinner tomorrow?" "I don't know what I want." "Then figure it out. I'm not going anywhere. When you're ready, if you're ready, let me know. I'll be here." He hung up before she could respond. Evelyn sat in her apartment, staring at her phone, feeling like she'd just made a terrible mistake, but unable to articulate exactly what it was. She didn't know that across town, Lucas Moretti was standing at his office window, his jaw clenched, fury radiating from every line of his body. "Find out who's digging into Alexander Morrison's background," he said into his phone, his voice ice. "I want to know who, why, and how deep they've gotten. It's just routine identity verification, boss. Nothing serious." "Everything is serious, especially now." He hung up, pressing his palm against the cold glass. Evelyn's face was reflected back at him in the window, a ghost image from his memory. This was supposed to be simple. He'd watched her for months, learned her patterns, created the perfect profile to draw her in. All to keep her close, to make sure she couldn't connect the dots between what she'd seen that night outside the restaurant and the people it could implicate. But somewhere between the rooftop and the goodbye, between the coffee and the call that had ripped him away from her, it had become complicated. She was asking questions, pulling threads, being smart and cautious in ways he'd hoped she wouldn't be. He should end this, ghost her, disappear from her life as quickly as he'd entered it. Instead, he pulled out his real phone and made a call to his best hacker. "I need you to create a complete online presence for Alexander Morrison. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, professional directories, project credits, everything. Make it airtight, make it real." "How far back?" 10 years. "And make it good. Someone's looking, and I need them to find exactly what I want them to find." When he hung up, he looked at Evelyn's contact on his burner phone. Her number, her name, the thread of lies he'd woven around both of them. He was in deeper than he'd ever intended. And the worst part was, he didn't want to climb out. 3 days passed with no word from Alex. Evelyn told herself she was relieved, that the distance was healthy, necessary, exactly what she'd asked for. She threw herself into work, reorganizing the museum's digital archives with a fervor that made Margaret raise her eyebrows but ask no questions. She didn't check her phone every 10 minutes. She didn't scroll through their message thread, reading and rereading their conversations. She definitely didn't dream about grey eyes and the weight of his hand on her shoulder. She was fine. "You're miserable," Maya announced on Wednesday, appearing at Evelyn's apartment with Thai food and a bottle of wine. "I can tell because you've stress cleaned. Your apartment is never this organized." Evelyn looked around her spotless living room. I was just tidying up. You alphabetized your books, by author first name. Nobody does that unless they're avoiding something. Maya set down the food and fixed her with a look. Talk to me. So Evelyn did. About the coffee date, about the phone call that had changed everything, about her suspicions and her research, and the way Alex had seemed almost relieved when she'd suggested slowing down. And you haven't heard from him since? Nothing. Radio silence. Maya was quiet for a long moment, swirling wine in her glass. You know what's weird? What? That he respected your boundary. Most guys would have pushed back, tried to convince you, shown up at your work with flowers and apologies, but he just let you go. That's a good thing. Is it? Or is it suspicious that he was so willing to walk away from something he claimed meant so much to him? Evelyn's stomach twisted. You think he was lying about all of it? I think maybe you dodged a bullet. Better to find out now than 6 months from now when you're in love with him, and he turns out to be someone completely different. The word love hung in the air between them, ridiculous and impossible, and somehow accurate, despite only knowing him for 3 dates spread across 4 days. I wasn't falling in love with him, Evelyn protested weakly. No? Maya's expression softened. Then why do you look like someone died? Evelyn couldn't answer that. Later, after Maya had left and the apartment felt too quiet again, Evelyn did something she knew was probably a mistake. She opened the dating app. His profile was still there. Alex, 32, architect. But now, when she looked at it, details jumped out at her. The photos were all carefully cropped, no backgrounds that might indicate location, no other people who might be tagged or identified. His bio was eloquent, but vague. Everything about it was designed to attract without revealing. She clicked on his photo, studying it with the trained eye of someone who'd spent years analyzing paintings. There was something in his expression, even in the middle of a laugh, that seemed guarded, like he was performing joy rather than feeling it. On impulse, she took a screenshot and uploaded it to a reverse image search. Nothing. The photo existed nowhere else on the internet. That should have been reassuring, proof that he was real, not catfishing with stolen photos. Instead, it made her more uneasy. Who takes photos that exist nowhere online? Who lives in the digital age and leaves no trace? Her phone buzzed, making her jump. An unknown number. Don't hang up. It's Alex. My work phone died. This is my personal. Evelyn stared at the message, her heart racing. 3 days of silence and now this. Why are you texting me? She wrote back. Because I miss you. Because these 3 days have been the longest of my life. Because I'm trying to respect your need for space, but I'm terrible at it. Despite everything, Evelyn smiled. You lasted 3 days. That's not terrible. It felt terrible. Evelyn, can we talk? Actually talk. Not text. Not hide behind screens. She should say no. Should maintain the distance, protect herself, listen to every instinct screaming that something about this wasn't right. When? Now. I'm outside your building. Evelyn's blood ran cold. She moved to her window, looked down at the street 3 floors below. A figure stood beneath the streetlight, phone glowing in his hand. How do you know where I live? The figure below looked up, as if he could see her even though her lights were off. You told me that first night, when you said you had a rent-controlled apartment in Manhattan, when we talked about your neighborhood. I remembered. Had she told him that? Evelyn scrolled back through their messages, trying to remember the exact details of their conversations. There was so much, spread across hours of talking. She couldn't be sure. That's not the same as knowing my exact address. Your Instagram. You posted a photo 6 months ago from your fire escape. I could see the street sign in the background. Evelyn's hands shook. She didn't remember that photo, didn't remember what she'd posted 6 months ago. But it was possible. It was all possible. Or it was an explanation constructed after the fact to justify surveillance. Come down, his text said. Please, 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Evelyn grabbed her jacket, then put it down. Grabbed it again. This was stupid. Reckless. Every true crime podcast she'd ever listened to screamed at her to stay inside, to call Maya, to do anything except go downstairs to meet a man who knew too much and revealed too little. She went downstairs. He was waiting exactly where she'd seen him, hands shoved in the pockets of his jacket, his expression raw in a way she'd never seen before. No charm, no carefully constructed exterior, just exhaustion and something that looked like desperation. "Thank you," he said when she approached, "for not calling the police. It crossed my mind. I wouldn't blame you." He gestured down the street. "Walk with me." They walked in silence for half a block before he spoke again. "I owe you an explanation." "Several, actually. I don't know where to start. How about with the truth? Who are you, really?" "Alexander Morrison." "Alex. That's not a lie." "But architect is." He hesitated too long. "It's complicated." "Then uncomplicate it. Because from where I'm standing, everything about you is a red flag wrapped in a charming package. No online presence, vague about work, showing up at my apartment knowing my address." I got scared. The words burst out of him, raw and unguarded. "When you asked about my work, when you wanted to see my projects, I panicked. Because the truth is, I'm not an architect. I was, years ago. I studied architecture. I wanted to be an architect, but it didn't work out. And I had to take over the family business instead." Evelyn stopped walking. "What family business?" "Real estate development, property management, corporate acquisitions. The boring stuff that makes money but kills your soul." He turned to face her. "I lied because I didn't want you to see me as that person. The businessman. The guy who spends his days in boardrooms making deals. I wanted to be Alex the architect, the person I almost was, for just a little while longer. It was a good lie, a plausible one, the kind of lie that explained everything while revealing nothing. "Show me your ID," Evelyn said. "What? If your name is really Alexander Morrison, show me your driver's license." His jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he'd refuse. Then he reached into his wallet and pulled out a New York State driver's license. Alexander D. Morrison. The photo matched. The age matched. The address was in Tribeca. High-end, expensive, appropriate for someone in real estate development. "Satisfied?" His voice was sharp, hurt. Evelyn handed it back. "What's the D stand for?" "Lucas. It's my middle name, family name. I hate it." "Why?" "Because it's a reminder of who I'm supposed to be instead of who I want to be." Evelyn studied his face, looking for tells, for cracks in the facade. "If you're in real estate, why make up the architect thing? Why not just tell me the truth from the start?" "Because women hear real estate developer and they see dollar signs. They see the penthouse and the car and the life, not the person. You were different. You cared about Monet and art and things that actually matter. I wanted you to care about me for me, not for what I could buy you." It made sense, it was logical. It explained the lies while making him seem vulnerable rather than deceptive. So why did Evelyn still feel like something was wrong? "You have one more chance," she said quietly. "One. If I catch you in another lie, if I find out you're hiding something else, we're done. No explanations, no second chances." Clear. Relief washed over his features. Crystal clear. "Good. Now take me home." They walked back in silence, the air between them heavy with unspoken words. At her building, he caught her hand. "I meant what I said that first night, about you deserving better than people who hurt you. I don't want to be another person who disappoints you." "Then don't be." He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "Can I take you to dinner? Tomorrow night? Let me prove I'm worth the chance you're giving me." Every rational part of Evelyn's brain said no. But the part that remembered the rooftop garden and the way he listened when she talked about art said yes. "One dinner. And Alex?" "Yes?" "No more lies." "No more lies," he promised. She went upstairs and immediately called Maya. "I need you to do something for me," she said before Maya could even say hello. "Research Alexander Morrison, real estate developer, Manhattan. Tell me everything you can find." "Evelyn, please. I need to know if he's telling the truth." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "Okay, but if I find something you don't like, you have to promise to listen to me." "I promise." After they hung up, Evelyn sat in her darkened apartment, staring at the license photo she'd snapped with her camera when Alex wasn't looking. The photo was real. The ID looked legitimate. Everything checked out. So why did she feel like she'd just made a deal with someone dangerous? 4 blocks away, Lucas set down his burner phone and picked up his real one. A message was waiting from his tech guy. "Online presence complete. Alexander Morrison, real estate developer, checks out 6 ways from Sunday. If anyone looks, They'll find exactly what we built. Another message, this one from his head of security. Potential problem. The friend, Maya Chen, she's asking questions, running searches. Should we be concerned? Lucas stared at the messages, his jaw clenched. This was spinning out of control. Every lie required another lie to support it. Every step forward meant 3 steps deeper into a web he was weaving around them both. He should call it off. Should ghost Evelyn, let her think he was just another bad date, another disappointment. Walk away before she got hurt. But he'd seen the look in her eyes tonight, the way she'd wanted to believe him, the way she'd given him one more chance despite every warning sign telling her not to. She was falling for him, the fake him, the carefully constructed version of himself that didn't exist, and God help him, he was falling for her too. He typed out a response to his security chief. Let her search. She'll find what we want her to find. And if she digs deeper, redirect her. Gently. We can't afford to spook either of them. Then he pulled up Evelyn's contact on his burner phone and typed, "Thank you for tonight, for giving me another chance. I won't waste it." Her response came quickly. "Just don't make me regret it." Too late, he thought. We're both going to regret this, but he couldn't stop now. Not when every conversation felt like coming home. Not when her smile was the only genuine thing in his carefully orchestrated life. He'd figure it out. He'd find a way to make this work without destroying them both. At least that's what he told himself as he poured a drink and stared out at the city, the weight of his deception growing heavier with each passing hour. The restaurant was perfect. Too perfect. Evelyn sat across from Alex, Alexander Morrison, real estate developer, in a private corner of an Italian place that probably cost more per entree than her weekly grocery budget. Candlelight flickered between them. A string quartet played somewhere out of sight. Every detail was carefully curated for romance, and all Evelyn could think about was Maya's phone call from that afternoon. "So I did the research," Maya had said, her voice carefully neutral. "Alexander Morrison exists. Real estate company called Morrison Development. Big portfolio, lots of high-end properties. Very successful, very legitimate. That's good, right?" "It would be. Except..." "Except what?" "Except Morrison Development didn't exist until 3 years ago. Before that, there's nothing. No Alexander Morrison in any property records, no business licenses, no paper trail at all. It's like he appeared out of thin air with a fully formed company and millions in capital. Maybe he worked for someone else first. Maybe he used his savings..." "Evelyn," Maya's voice was gentle but firm. "Nobody starts a real estate empire from scratch in Manhattan with savings. That's not how it works. And the properties his company owns, they're all empty. Shell corporations within shell corporations. It's either money laundering or something worse." Now, watching Alex smile at her over his wine glass, Evelyn tried to reconcile the man in front of her with Maya's suspicions. "You're quiet tonight," he observed. "Everything okay?" "Just thinking." "About? You? Your work? Your life?" She paused. "Where did the money come from? To start Morrison Development?" His smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. "Why do you ask?" "Because I'm curious. Because you went from architecture student to real estate developer, and that's a big leap. I want to understand your story." He set down his glass, his expression becoming unreadable. "Family money. An inheritance from my father. It was complicated, but it gave me the capital to start the business. Your father, who wasn't a good man." "Yes. Must be strange, building a company with money from someone you didn't respect." "It is. Every day." He reached across the table, catching her hand. "Is this an interrogation?" "Because it's starting to feel like one." Evelyn pulled her hand back. "I'm just trying to know you, the real you, not the version you present on dates. The real me is complicated, messy, full of choices I'm not proud of and compromises that keep me up at night." His eyes held hers. "Are you sure you want that? Or would you rather keep the romance alive a little longer?" "I want the truth. The truth is, I'm falling for you and it scares the hell out of me because I don't deserve you. Is that real enough?" It was the right answer. The vulnerable, honest answer that should have melted her defenses. Instead, it felt like another performance. "I need to use the restroom," Evelyn said, standing abruptly. "Excuse me." She found the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and leaned against the cold metal wall. Her hands were shaking, Her breath came too fast. Everything Maya had said echoed in her head. Shell corporations, money laundering, a man who appeared from nowhere with unexplained wealth. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through their messages, looking for what she'd missed, the careful deflections. The subject changes whenever she got too close to something real. The way he'd shown up at her apartment, knowing her address from a photo she barely remembered posting. Her phone buzzed. "Maya, where are you?" "At dinner, with Alex." "Leave. Now." "Evelyn, I found something. The properties Morrison Development owns, 3 of them were involved in federal investigations, suspected underground operations connections. The investigations went nowhere, but Evelyn's vision tunneled. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying get out of that restaurant. I'm saying this man is not who he claims to be. I'm saying..." The bathroom door opened. A woman in a black suit entered, her expression professionally blank. "Miss Chen, Mr. Morrison asked me to check on you. He's concerned." Evelyn stared at her. "How do you know my name?" "Mr. Morrison told me." The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "He's worried about you. Tell him I'll be right out." The woman didn't move. "Perhaps I should escort you back to your table." It wasn't a suggestion. Evelyn's pulse thundered in her ears. She pocketed her phone, Maya's voice still echoing from the speaker, and followed the woman back into the dining room. Alex stood when she approached, his expression a mask of concern. "Evelyn, are you all right? You looked pale." "Who was that woman?" Evelyn's voice came out steadier than she felt. "Restaurant security. I noticed you were gone a while and asked them to make sure you were okay. Was that wrong?" "How did she know my name?" I told her. "Evelyn, what's going on?" Everyone in the restaurant was looking at them now. The other diners, the staff, all pretending not to stare while obviously listening. Evelyn felt trapped, exposed, like a butterfly pinned to a board. "I need to leave," she said quietly. "Then I'll take you home." "No, I'll take a cab." "Evelyn." He caught her arm as she turned. Not hard, not threatening, but firm enough to stop her. "Talk to me, tell me what's wrong." She looked at his hand on her arm, then at his face, really looked at him, past the charm and the vulnerability and the carefully constructed romance. And for just a moment she saw something else, something cold and calculating behind the grey eyes. "Let go of me." He released her immediately, hands up in surrender. "I'm sorry." "I didn't mean... Who are you really?" The words came out as a whisper, but they might as well have been shouted. "Not Alexander Morrison, the real estate developer. Who are you, actually?" His expression went very still. "Evelyn, the federal investigations, the shell corporations, the way you appeared from nowhere with millions of dollars and a fake online presence that only went live 3 days ago." She saw the flash of surprise in his eyes and knew she'd hit the mark. "Who are you?" The restaurant had gone silent now. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Alex, or whoever he was, looked at her for a long moment. She saw him calculating, weighing options, deciding how much truth she could handle. "Not here," he said finally. "Come with me. Let me explain. Please. So you can have your security escort take care of me." "No, thanks." "Evelyn, I would never hurt you. You have to believe that." "I don't have to believe anything you say. Not anymore." She grabbed her jacket. "Stay away from me. If you try to contact me, I'm going to the police." "And tell them what? That you went on dates with a man you met on a dating app, that he was charming and attentive and took you to nice places." His voice was still gentle, but there was steel beneath it now. "Think about what you're accusing me of. Think about whether you have any actual evidence or just a friend's paranoid research." Evelyn's blood ran cold. "You had me investigated." "I had you protected. From what?" "From people who would hurt you to get to me." He took a step closer, his voice dropping. "Evelyn, please, just listen to me for 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. 5 minutes of truth, and then you can walk away if you still want to." She should run, should scream, should do anything except stand there listening to a man who was clearly dangerous, clearly lying, clearly so much more than a failed architect turned real estate developer. But something in his expression stopped her. Not fear, not calculation, something that looked almost like grief. 5 minutes, she said, but not here, somewhere public, with witnesses. He nodded, relief washing over his features. "There's a park 2 blocks away. I'll walk ahead." You follow. If you change your mind, just leave. He dropped cash on the table, far too much for the meal they'd barely touched, and headed for the door. Evelyn waited 30 seconds, then followed, her phone clutched in her hand like a weapon. The park was empty except for a few joggers and a homeless man sleeping on a bench. Alex stood beneath a streetlight, hands in his pockets, looking nothing like the charming architect she'd swiped right on a week ago. "My name is Lucas Moretti," he said when she approached. "Alexander Morrison is a cover identity. Real estate development is how I launder money. And I am involved in underground operations. Not a subordinate, not an associate. I run one of the largest organizations in the city." Evelyn's legs went weak. "Your syndicate? That word is so dramatic. I prefer businessman with unconventional methods." His attempt at humor fell flat. "But yes, essentially. And the dating app? Was how I planned to keep you close, to monitor you, to make sure you couldn't connect certain dots that would be very problematic for me and my organization." "What dots?" He hesitated, and she saw the calculation again. How much to tell? How much was too much? "You were outside Il Canto 3 months ago, October 15th, around 9 p.m. You witnessed a conversation between me and an associate. You didn't know it was important. You couldn't have known, but it was. And I couldn't take the risk that you'd remember something later, at an inconvenient time." Evelyn's mind spun back. October, Il Canto. She'd been on a date, her last date before Brad broke up with her. They'd fought. She'd walked outside to cool off, and she'd seen 2 men in expensive suits, talking intently near a black car. One of them had looked at her. She'd looked away quickly, embarrassed to be caught staring. It had been him. Lucas, Alex, whatever his name was. "I don't remember anything important," she said, her voice hollow. "Just 2 men talking, that's all." "I know. But I didn't know that 3 months ago. So I researched you, learned your patterns, created Alex the architect, made a profile I knew would appeal to you, and waited for you to swipe right. And the connection? The chemistry? The way you made me feel like I'd finally met someone who understood me." Tears burned behind her eyes. "That was all fake?" "No." The word came out fierce. "That's the problem, Evelyn. It was supposed to be fake. It was supposed to be surveillance. But from the first message, from the moment you asked me about Monet versus Manet, it stopped being about the job and started being about you. And now I'm in too deep to walk away, and you're in danger because of me, and I don't know how to fix it." "In danger from what?" "From people who would use you to hurt me. From rivals who've seen us together and who think you're leverage. From..." He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "From me. I'm the danger, Evelyn. I'm the person who's destroyed your life by dragging you into mine." Evelyn backed away, shaking her head. "This isn't real. This is insane. People don't... This doesn't happen in real life." "But it did. It is. And I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry." He stayed where he was, not following her. "I'll have protection assigned to you. You won't see them, but they'll be there, and I'll stay away. You'll never see me again. I promise." "Don't make promises." Her voice broke. "You're not good at keeping them." She turned and walked away, her vision blurred with tears, her entire world shattered into pieces she didn't know how to reassemble. Behind her, she heard him say something, but the words were lost in the sound of her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Evelyn made it 3 blocks before she collapsed against a building, sobbing. Everything, every moment, every kiss, every conversation had been a lie. He'd manipulated her, used her, made her believe in something that never existed. She pulled out her phone to call Maya, then stopped. If what he'd said was true, if she really was in danger, then calling Maya would just put her friend at risk too. She was alone, completely terrifyingly alone, with knowledge that could get her killed, and feelings for a man who didn't exist. The man she'd fallen for was a fiction. And the man who'd created that fiction was exactly the kind of monster she should run from. So why did part of her want to run back? Evelyn didn't sleep that night. She sat on her couch, lights off, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed periodically, Maya calling, texting, demanding to know what happened. Evelyn ignored them all. What could she say? "I fell for a syndicate boss who catfished me as part of a surveillance operation." It sounded like a terrible movie plot. Except it was her life now. At 3 a.m. her phone lit up with a new number. "This is Sal, I'm your protection detail. Just want you to know I'm outside." Black SUV, north side of the street. You're safe. Get some sleep. Evelyn stared at the message. Part of her wanted to march downstairs and tell Sal and his SUV to leave. The other part, the part that remembered the coldness in Lucas's eyes when he talked about people who would use her as leverage, was grateful. She texted back, "How long?" "As long as Mr. Moretti says." Which I'm guessing is a while. He doesn't do anything halfway. Evelyn set down her phone and closed her eyes. Even his protection felt like an intrusion, a reminder that her life wasn't entirely hers anymore. Morning came without her noticing the transition from dark to light. She showered on autopilot, dressed in yesterday's clothes, called in sick to work. Margaret would worry, but Evelyn couldn't bring herself to care. At noon there was a knock at her door. Evelyn looked through the peephole. A woman in her 50s stood in the hallway, expensive handbag over her arm, expression somehow both stern and compassionate. "Evelyn Chen. My name is Sophia Moretti. I'm Lucas's mother. May I come in?" Every instinct screamed no, but curiosity won. Evelyn opened the door. Sophia Moretti was elegant in the way only money and breeding could create. She swept into Evelyn's apartment like she owned it, taking in the second-hand furniture and museum posters with a single assessing glance. "You're younger than I expected," she said, settling onto Evelyn's couch without invitation. "Lucas usually prefers them older, more sophisticated." "Them?" Evelyn's voice was sharp. "How many women has he surveilled through dating apps?" "You're the first, and hopefully the last." Sophia opened her purse, pulling out an envelope. "I'm here to offer you a choice." "What kind of choice?" "The first option, you take this envelope. Inside is a check for $200,000 and a plane ticket to anywhere in the world. You leave today, start over somewhere Lucas can't follow, and forget you ever met him." Evelyn stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "And the second option?" "You stay. You hear what my son has to say. You let him grovel and explain and probably make everything worse because he's terrible at expressing his feelings." Sophia's expression softened. "And then you decide if a man who's made every wrong choice for the right reason deserves a chance at happiness." "He lied to me, manipulated me, put me in danger." "Yes, he did all those things." Sophia didn't look away. "But he also fell in love with you in the process. And that terrifies him more than any rival organization ever could." "Love." Evelyn laughed, the sound bitter. "He doesn't love me. He loves the idea of me, the version of me he created in his head." "Does he? Or is it possible that he saw exactly who you are and loved you anyway?" Sophia stood, leaving the envelope on the coffee table. "I've watched my son become harder and colder every year since his father died, since he took over the business, since he let duty consume everything else. But this week, I saw him smile. Really smile. Not the performance he puts on for associates or rivals. A genuine smile that reached his eyes. Because he was pretending to be someone else. Or because with you, he could be someone else, someone better." Sophia moved toward the door. "Take the money if you want. No one would blame you. But Evelyn, may I call you Evelyn? Sometimes the bravest thing isn't walking away from danger. It's walking toward it, because the alternative is living with regret." After she left, Evelyn stared at the envelope for an hour. $200,000. A fresh start. The chance to leave all of this behind and pretend it never happened. She picked it up, turned it over in her hands. All her problems solved in one envelope. No more rent struggles, no more ramen dinners, no more waking up at 2 a.m. wondering if she'd made the wrong career choice, and no more possibility of Lucas. Her phone buzzed. Maya. "Are you alive?" "Evelyn, I swear to God, if you don't answer me right now." Evelyn answered. "I'm alive. What happened last night? You scared the hell out of me." "I can't tell you, not yet. But I'm okay, I promise." "Liar. I can hear it in your voice." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Is it him? Did he do something?" "He told me the truth." "Which is?" "Worse than you thought. Worse than I could have imagined." Evelyn's voice cracked. "And somehow I still want to see him again." "What's wrong with me?" "Nothing, you're human. Humans are idiots when it comes to love. This isn't love, this is... I don't even know what this is." "Then figure it out. But Evelyn, whatever you decide, make sure it's what you want, not what he wants. Not what his mother wants, not what I want. You. After they hung up, Evelyn looked at the envelope again. Then she stood, grabbed her jacket, and headed for the door. Sal straightened as she emerged from her building. Everything okay, Ms. Chen? I need an address. Where does Lucas live? Sal hesitated. Mr. Moretti was very clear about giving you space. I'm sure he was. I'm asking anyway. Sal studied her for a long moment, then rattled off an address in Tribeca. But Ms. Chen, maybe give him a heads up that you're coming. Why? Because he's in a mood. And when the boss is in a mood, people get hurt. Evelyn's stomach dropped. What kind of hurt? The kind that requires emergency dental work. Sal opened the SUV door. Come on, I'll drive you, safer that way. The building was everything she expected. Glass and steel, doorman, the kind of place where apartments started at $5 million. The doorman took one look at Sal and waved them through without question. The elevator required a key for the penthouse. Sal produced one. Does everyone have access to his apartment? Just security, in case of emergency. And what constitutes an emergency? Sal smiled grimly. You'll know it when you see it. The elevator opened directly into Lucas's apartment. Evelyn stepped out into a space that was somehow both massive and minimalist. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Expensive but impersonal furniture. Art on the walls that looked chosen by a decorator, not an enthusiast. And in the center of it all, Lucas stood at the window, phone to his ear, his voice cold enough to frost the glass. I don't care about his excuses. I care about results. You have 24 hours. After that, I handle it personally. He hung up, turned, and froze when he saw her. Evelyn. She'd prepared a speech, prepared to tell him exactly what she thought of him, his lies, his manipulation. But seeing him now, shoulders tense, exhaustion carved into every line of his face, the words died. Your mother offered me $200,000 to leave town, she said instead. His jaw tightened. She shouldn't have done that. But she did. So I'm here to ask, is that what you want? For me to take the money and disappear? What I want is irrelevant. Answer the question, Lucas. Or is that another lie? Is your name even really Lucas? Yes. He moved closer, and she saw the bruised knuckles on his right hand. Lucas Alessandro Moretti, born in this city, raised to take over my father's empire, trapped by duty and honor and all the other words men use to justify doing terrible things. Evelyn looked at his hand. Who did you hit? Someone who deserved it. That's not an answer. Fine, I hit the wall in my office multiple times because I was angry at myself for hurting you and I couldn't hit the person actually responsible. Despite everything, Evelyn felt something soften in her chest. You're an idiot. I'm aware. And a liar. That too. And you put me in danger just to keep your organization's secrets safe. Yes. He didn't look away. But I also fell in love with you somewhere between the rooftop and the confession, and I don't know what to do with that, because people like me don't get love. We get loyalty, fear, respect, but not love. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It's the truth. Evelyn walked to the window, looking out at the city. Somewhere down there, people were living normal lives, dating normally, falling in love without surveillance and shell corporations and mothers who offered hush money. I should take the money, she said quietly. You should. I should get on a plane and never look back. You absolutely should. So why am I still here? Because you're an idiot too. He said it gently. Because some part of you understands that the person I was on that rooftop, the person who asked about Monet and listened when you talked about art, that person was real. The name was fake, the circumstances were manipulative, but the man who fell for you was real. Evelyn turned to face him. How do I trust that? How do I trust anything you say? You don't, you can't, not yet. He held up his damaged hand. But I can promise you this, no more lies. Ask me anything, and I'll tell you the truth, even if it destroys us, especially if it destroys us. Okay. Evelyn took a breath. What exactly do you do? What crimes have you committed? He didn't flinch. Money laundering, extortion, blackmail. I've ordered violence against people who threatened the family, though I've never killed anyone personally. I've bribed police, judges, politicians. I've built an empire on fear and leverage, and the kind of morally grey activities that would land me in prison for life if anyone could prove them. And you expect me to be okay with this? No. I expect you to run. I expect you to take my mother's money and build a life far away from this." His voice was steady. "But I'm asking, begging, for you to consider a different possibility, which is that people can be more than their worst actions. That context matters, that circumstances shape us, that redemption is possible even for those who don't deserve it." He moved closer. "I'm not a good man, Evelyn, but I'm a man who wants to be better. And you make me want that in a way nothing else ever has. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone you've known for a week. I know. It's unfair. It's manipulative in a different way. And if you walk out that door right now, I'll understand. I'll have Sal take you to the airport. I'll make sure the money clears. I'll disappear from your life like I was never there." Evelyn studied his face, the face she'd thought belonged to Alex, the charming architect. But Alex never existed. This man, this dangerous, complicated, morally compromised man, he was who'd been there all along. "I need time," she said finally. "How much?" "I don't know. Days. Weeks, maybe longer." Relief and despair warred in his expression. "And during that time, what happens to us?" "Nothing. We don't see each other. We don't talk. You leave me alone to figure out if I'm brave enough to be with someone like you or smart enough to run. And if you decide to run, then I run, and you let me." He nodded slowly. "Sal will stay on as protection. Non-negotiable. There are people who've seen us together, and they won't care that we're taking a break. You need security. Fine. And Evelyn?" He caught her hand as she moved toward the elevator. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For all of it. For the lies, the manipulation, for making you believe in something that wasn't entirely real. You deserved better. You deserve better." She looked at their joined hands, hers small and delicate, his bruised and scarred, and wondered if this was what it looked like when two incompatible people tried to connect. "Maybe," she said quietly. "Or maybe I deserve exactly this, a complicated love with a complicated man. Maybe perfect was never what I needed." She pulled her hand away and stepped into the elevator. The last thing she saw before the doors closed was Lucas standing in his empty penthouse, looking like a man who'd just lost everything. Evelyn didn't cry on the ride down, didn't cry in Sal's SUV, didn't cry until she was back in her apartment, surrounded by her normal life that felt suddenly too small. Then she cried for hours, for the loss of Alex, for the impossible situation she'd found herself in, for the fact that despite everything, she was already counting the days until she could see Lucas again. Because Sophia Moretti had been right about one thing. The bravest choice wasn't always walking away. Sometimes it was walking toward the danger because the alternative was living with regret. Evelyn just wasn't sure yet which choice was braver or which one she was capable of making. 2 weeks passed in a strange limbo. Evelyn went back to work, threw herself into cataloguing a new shipment of French Impressionist drawings, tried to pretend her life was normal. Maya watched her with worried eyes but didn't push. Sal remained a constant presence outside her building, switching out with other security personnel whose names Evelyn never learned. Lucas kept his word. No contact, no messages, no attempts to sway her decision. The absence was worse than his presence had been. Evelyn found herself thinking about him at odd moments, while organizing exhibits, while grocery shopping, while lying awake at 3 a.m. She'd replay their conversations, trying to separate what had been genuine from what had been performance. The lines blurred more than she wanted to admit. Then on a Thursday evening, everything changed. Evelyn was leaving the museum after a late shift when Sal intercepted her at the top of the steps. "Change of plans," he said, his voice tight. "We need to go." "Now, what's wrong?" "I'll explain in the car. Move." His urgency was infectious. Evelyn hurried to the SUV, her heart racing. Sal pulled into traffic with barely a glance at oncoming cars, his jaw set. "Sal, talk to me. There's been a threat. Someone leaked photos of you and Mr. Moretti. They're circulating in certain channels. People who'd use you as leverage now know you exist and that the boss cares about you. But we're not together. We haven't even talked in 2 weeks. They don't know that, and even if they did, it wouldn't matter. You're a vulnerability now, which makes you a target. Evelyn's blood ran cold. A target for what? For people who want to hurt him by hurting you. Sal took a sharp turn. We're taking you somewhere safe, Mr. Moretti's orders. I don't want to see him. It's not about what you want. It's about keeping you alive. They drove in tense silence for 20 minutes, leaving Manhattan behind, heading into an area Evelyn didn't recognize. Industrial buildings gave way to gated estates. Sal pulled up to a massive iron gate, spoke into an intercom, and waited as it swung open. The house beyond was more compound than home, sprawling, modern, surrounded by high walls and security cameras. A safe house, Sal explained, one of several the family maintains. You'll stay here until the threat's neutralized. For how long? As long as it takes. Lucas was waiting in the entrance hall. He looked worse than he had 2 weeks ago, thinner, exhausted, the kind of tired that spoke to sleepless nights and impossible choices. I'm sorry, he said the moment he saw her. I never wanted this, never wanted you in danger because of me. Yet here we are. Yes, here we are. He gestured deeper into the house. I'll show you to your room. You'll have full access to the main areas. Security is outside and at all entry points you're safe here. Evelyn followed him through rooms that were beautifully decorated but sterile, like a high-end hotel. He stopped at a door, opened it to reveal a bedroom that could have been in an interior design magazine. There are clothes in the closet, various sizes, toiletries in the bathroom. If you need anything else, ask Sal or any of the security team. He paused at the threshold. I'll be staying in the East Wing. You won't see me unless you want to. Lucas. Evelyn caught his arm as he turned to leave. What's the threat, specifically? His expression darkened. The Calabrese organization. They've been trying to move into our territory for months. Someone gave them photos of us together and they've decided you're their way in. Make me vulnerable, distracted, willing to negotiate from a position of weakness. And will you? Negotiate? No, I'll end them first. He said it simply, without bravado, and Evelyn believed him. But that takes time, and I need you safe while I work. So I'm bait. No, you're the one thing I can't afford to lose. The vulnerability in his voice made her chest ache. She'd spent 2 weeks trying to convince herself that what she felt for him was just the remnants of an elaborate lie. But looking at him now, exhausted and worried and so obviously terrified of losing her, she knew it was more. I'll stay, she said quietly. But I want the truth about everything. No more protected ignorance. If I'm in danger because of you, I deserve to know why and how and what you're planning to do about it. Deal. They stood in the doorway for another moment, neither quite willing to step away. Finally, Lucas moved back. Get settled. There's food in the kitchen if you're hungry. And Evelyn, thank you for trusting me enough to come here. After he left, Evelyn explored her new prison. Because that's what it was, despite the luxury, a cage built to protect her from consequences she'd never asked for. She found the kitchen, made tea she didn't want, stared out windows that overlooked manicured gardens and high walls. Somewhere beyond those walls, people wanted to hurt her to hurt Lucas. The thought seemed surreal, like something from a movie rather than her actual life. A sound made her turn. Lucas stood in the kitchen doorway, changed into jeans and a t-shirt that made him look younger, more like Alex the architect than Lucas the syndicate boss. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Haven't tried yet. He moved to the refrigerator, pulling out ingredients. I'm making carbonara, my mother's recipe, well, my grandmother's, but my mother taught me. You cook? When I can't sleep, it helps. He glanced at her. Join me? Evelyn should have said no. Should have gone back to her room, maintained distance. Instead, she found herself sitting at the kitchen island watching him work. His hands moved with practiced ease, cracking eggs, grating cheese, dicing pancetta. It was strangely intimate, this glimpse of him in a domestic space doing something normal. When did you learn, she asked. My grandmother insisted, said a man who couldn't feed himself was only half a man. He smiled slightly at the memory. She taught all her grandchildren. Even my sister, though she was terrible at it. You have a sister. Had. She died when I was 16, car accident, or that's what the police report said. His hands stilled. But I've always suspected it was a rival organization, sending a message to my father. Evelyn's stomach clenched. Lucas, it's why I ended up in this life. I was supposed to go to Columbia, study architecture like I wanted, but after Maria died, my father needed me. Needed someone he could trust to take over eventually, so I chose family over dreams. That's not really a choice. No, but it's the one I made. He resumed cooking, his movements almost aggressive now. And it led me here, to you, to putting you in danger because I couldn't leave well enough alone, because I saw you that night outside Il Canto, and I should have just let you go, but I didn't. What was it that you saw? He didn't answer for a long moment. Then, you were arguing with someone. Your date, I assume. He was being cruel and you were holding it together, but I could see the hurt in your eyes. And I thought, there's someone who deserves better. He plated the pasta, set it in front of her. I told myself I needed to surveil you, keep you close. But the truth is I was fascinated from that first glimpse. And when I finally talked to you, when I saw that sadness mixed with hope, I was done for. Evelyn took a bite of pasta, buying herself time to respond. It was delicious, rich and creamy and exactly what she needed, even though she hadn't known she was hungry. This is really good. Deflecting? Processing. She set down her fork. You've had weeks to think about this. About us. I've had days. And most of those days were spent trying to convince myself I didn't care. Did it work? No. The admission cost her. Which is why I'm here, eating carbonara in a safe house with a man I barely know instead of on a plane to anywhere else. What do you want to know? Ask me anything. Evelyn considered the question. There was so much she could ask, about his business, his crimes, his plans. But only one question mattered. If this threat were gone tomorrow, if we were just two normal people, would you still want this? Want me? Yes. No hesitation. But we're not normal people. I can't offer you normal. I can offer you protection, comfort, whatever money can buy, but not normal, not safe, not the life you deserve. Maybe I don't want normal. Evelyn pushed her plate away. Maybe I spent my whole life choosing safe, the museum job instead of curatorial work at a bigger institution, rent control instead of a neighborhood I actually liked, men who were reliable instead of exciting. And where did it get me? Lonely, unhappy, going through motions instead of living. So you're saying you want danger, excitement, a boyfriend with a dangerous life who keeps you in a safe house? No, I'm saying maybe I want to choose for myself for once. Maybe I want messy and complicated and real instead of easy and empty. She met his eyes. But I need you to be honest with me. Can you do that? Can you let me see the real you, not the version you think I can handle? You don't want to see the real me. Yes, I do. He studied her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. Then he stood. Come with me, I'll show you. He led her through the house to a room she hadn't seen before, a study, walls lined with books, a massive desk covered in papers. He unlocked a drawer and pulled out a file. This is who I am, what I've done. He set it in front of her. Security assessments, financial records, documented, incidents. Read it, all of it, and then decide if you still want to be here. Evelyn opened the file. The first page made her stomach turn. The second worse. By the fifth page she was shaking. This wasn't sanitized corporate crime. It was real violence, real consequences, real people hurt because Lucas had ordered it or allowed it. She saw documentation of confrontations with rivals, records of businesses destroyed, transcripts of conversations that revealed a coldness she'd never seen in Alex the architect. She made it through half the file before she had to stop. Now you see, Lucas said quietly. Now you understand why you should take my mother's money and run. Evelyn closed the file, her hands trembling. These people, the ones who were hurt, did they deserve it? Some of them. They were threats, people who would have hurt innocents if left unchecked. Others, he paused, others were just business, necessary evils to maintain power and protect the family. That's horrifying. Yes. And you live with it, with knowing you've done these things. I don't sleep much, if that's what you're asking. He leaned against the desk. I tell myself it's necessary, that someone has to make the hard choices, maintain order, keep worse people from taking power. But at 3 a.m. when I can't shut off my mind, I wonder if I'm just making excuses for being my father's son. Evelyn stood, moved to the window. Outside, security lights illuminated the garden in harsh white. Everything looked stark, exposed. "I should leave," she said. "Yes, I should take the money and never look back." "Absolutely. So why am I still here?" "Because you're an optimist. You believe people can change, that context matters, that love might be enough to redeem someone." He moved to stand beside her, not touching, just present. "But Evelyn, I need you to understand. I can't change. Not fundamentally. The business, the family, the violence, it's who I am. What I do. I can try to be better in how I do it, but I can't walk away. I'm not asking you to walk away." "Then what are you asking?" Evelyn turned to face him. "I'm asking if there's room in your life for something good, something pure, something that isn't about power or control or survival. Can you have this?" She gestured between them. "And still be who you need to be for your family?" "I don't know. No one's ever asked before." "Well, I'm asking now." They stood in the charged silence, the weight of impossible choices hanging between them. Finally, Lucas reached out, his fingers barely grazing her cheek. "If you stay, people will judge you, investigate you, use you against me. They'll question your choices and your character. Your life will never be truly private again, and I can't promise you'll always be safe, no matter how many guards I assign." "I know." "And you're willing to risk that? For this?" Evelyn leaned into his touch, making a choice that would change everything. "For you, for us, for the chance that maybe, just maybe, this crazy, impossible thing could work." He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "You're the bravest person I've ever met. Or the stupidest. That too." They stood like that for a long moment, not kissing, not moving, just breathing the same air and existing in the space between danger and devotion. Outside, security lights illuminated the garden. Somewhere beyond the walls, people plotted and planned. Tomorrow would bring new threats, new complications, new reasons to doubt this decision. But tonight, in the quiet of the safe house, Evelyn Chen and Lucas Moretti chose each other despite every reasonable objection. And if that wasn't love, complicated, messy, dangerous love, then Evelyn didn't know what was. The Calabrese threat was neutralized within a week. Evelyn never learned the details, and Lucas never offered them. She woke up one morning to find him in the kitchen, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him since this all began. "It's over," he said simply. "You can go home." But home felt like a foreign concept now. Her apartment would be the same, the second-hand furniture, the museum posters, the life she'd built before, but she wouldn't be the same. She couldn't be. "What if I don't want to go back?" The words surprised her as much as him. "Evelyn, not here, not to the safe house, but not to my old life either." She moved closer. "What if we tried something different?" "Like what?" "Like you stop treating me like something fragile that needs to be protected from your real life. Like I meet your family, understand your business, become part of your world instead of being hidden from it." Lucas was quiet for a long moment. "You don't know what you're asking. Then show me. Stop protecting me from the truth and let me make informed decisions." So he did. Over the next month, Evelyn was introduced to a world she'd never imagined existed beneath the city's polished surface. She met Lucas's mother formally, sharing tea in a townhouse where family photos lined the walls and Maria's ghost lingered in every room. She met his senior associates, his security personnel, the men and women who comprised his organization. Some of them were kind, others were cruel. All of them were loyal in a way that spoke to Lucas's leadership. She also saw the other side, the community centers his family funded, the small businesses they protected from predatory developers, the way Lucas's organization maintained a strange code of honor that prohibited certain crimes while embracing others. It wasn't black and white, it was 1,000 shades of gray. Evelyn quit her museum job, a decision that devastated Margaret but felt necessary. She couldn't split her attention between two worlds. If she was choosing Lucas, she was choosing completely. Instead, she started consulting for the family's legitimate businesses, helping them develop art collections and cultural programming. It wasn't the career she'd imagined, but it was hers, built on her own terms. Maya struggled to understand. They had lunch once a month, and Evelyn could see the worry in her friend's eyes, even as Maya tried to support her choice. "Are you happy?" Maya asked during one of these lunches. Evelyn considered the question. She lived in Lucas's penthouse now, surrounded by luxury, but also by security. She couldn't go anywhere without protection. Her privacy was a memory. And yet, yes, she said, I actually am. Even knowing what he does. Especially knowing what he does. Because there's no performance now. No lies. Just the real version of both of us, trying to build something that shouldn't work, but does. 6 months after that first swipe right, Evelyn and Lucas stood on the rooftop where they'd had their first date. He'd recreated it, the lights, the garden, even the same pasta from that night. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Evelyn's heart stopped. Lucas, it's not what you think. Not yet. I'm not that presumptuous. He opened it to reveal a key. This is to the safe house. I'm deeding it to you. Your name. Your property. Somewhere that's entirely yours, that I can never take away or control. Evelyn stared at the key, understanding the significance. In his world, this was more than a gesture. It was a promise. Why? Because you gave up everything for this. Your job, your apartment, your normal life. The least I can do is give you something back. Somewhere you can go if you ever need to escape from me, from this life, from all of it. She took the key, closed her fist around it. I won't need to escape. You might, someday. And I want you to know you can. Evelyn looked at him. This complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who turned her life upside down. Do you remember what you said that first night? About soulmates being a myth? I remember. You were right. This isn't destiny. It's choice. Every day I choose you. Every day you choose me. That's harder than soulmates. It's also more real. He pulled her close, and for the first time since she'd learned the truth, Evelyn felt completely at peace. This wasn't the fairy tale she'd imagined when she'd swiped right on Alex the architect. It was messier, stranger, more complicated than any romance novel. But it was theirs. I love you, Lucas said, the words simple and true. I know I don't deserve you, but I love you anyway. Good, Evelyn replied, rising on her toes to kiss him. Because I love you too, the real you. The complicated, morally grey, occasionally terrifying real you. They stayed on that rooftop until dawn, talking and laughing and planning a future that would never be conventional, but would always be real. Evelyn thought about the woman she'd been, sitting on her couch in avocado pajamas, convinced love wasn't worth trying for. That woman felt like a stranger now. She'd been so afraid of being hurt that she'd stopped being open to possibility. This path had led her through danger, deception, and choices she never thought she'd make. But it had also led her to Lucas, to love that was imperfect but honest, to a version of herself that was braver than she'd known she could be. Thank you, she said into the comfortable silence. For what? For being exactly who you are, for not pretending to be someone safer or easier, for trusting me with the truth, even when it was ugly. Thank you for staying, for seeing past the monster to whatever's underneath. You're not a monster. Sometimes I am. Then I guess I love monsters. She rested her head on his shoulder, watching the city wake up around them. Fair warning, though. I'm terrible at being part of your world. I don't know the rules. Make your own rules. That's what I love about you. You see the world how it is and choose to exist in it, on your terms. And that was the truth neither of them had expected. Love didn't require one person to change for the other. It required both people to be brave enough to show themselves completely and hope it was enough. For Evelyn and Lucas, it was more than enough. It was everything. Years later, people would ask Evelyn how she ended up with Lucas Moretti. She'd think about that night, downloading the dating app, swiping right on a profile that seemed too good to be true, and inadvertently changing her entire life. No luck in love, she'd say with a smile. So I downloaded a dating app. My first match was the billionaire syndicate boss using a fake profile. Things got complicated from there. And if anyone asked if she regretted it, the danger, the deception, the impossible choice she'd made, Evelyn would look at the man beside her, the one who'd been Alex before he was Lucas, and say without hesitation, not for a second. Because sometimes the worst swipe right turns out to be the best decision of your life, and sometimes love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone perfectly imperfect who chooses you anyway, every single day.
And promises that fade. Empty glasses on my table, and hearts that never stay. I told myself I'm stronger, alone inside my skin. But loneliness has gravity and pulled me in again. I swiped right on a maybe. I'm a beautiful lie. Your answer, trust me. But danger was hiding inside. You were too good to be true, and I knew it from the start. But I still gave you my nights and the keys to my heart. If loving you is a risk, and I fall anyway. Some letters aren't meant to be saved, don't have to change us this way. You spoke in quiet honesty, like no one ever had. You listened when I talked about the life I never planned. Your hints felt like a promise, your silence felt like war. Every truth you didn't tell me made me want you more. I saw the cracks in the story, your shadows in your name, but something in your voice kept calling me back again. You were too good to be true, but I stayed anyway. I traded peace for the fire. I couldn't walk away. If loving you is a sin, and I'll pay every due. Some hearts don't want forever, they just want something real and true. If you're the monster in the dark, then I'll be the light you fear. If this love is built on danger, I'll still stand right here. Don't save me, don't protect me, just don't lie anymore. I don't need a hero, I need the truth I'm fighting for. You're too good to be true, now you're painfully real. And I chose every scar, like everything we feel. If this love breaks the rules, if it costs me my peace, I'd rather love you honestly and live safely and complete. That's why I trade on disaster, on desire, on faith. Sometimes love isn't perfect, it's just worth the